What's happening, my friend?
Hello, Travis.
Doing good. You're looking good.
That's right.
A little under the weather.
Yeah, I'm on the mend though. My cold is starting to recede.
But it's about time that, between the two of us, when one of us is under the weather, this time it's you.
Are you keeping track? That's good. Well, here's the good news for the listening audience. Today I got my final wooden tooth installed.
So how many does that put you at? What is the wooden tooth count?
3.
3 whole wooden teeth.
Right.
And did we establish the species of wood we're going with? What's the highest value? Is it
mahogany?
Mahogany?
They're not actually wood for any new listeners. That might not.
What about
be.
like a wood look? Like a veneer or something cool?
Right. When my nephew looks in my mouth and says, "Uncle Mike, you have gold in your mouth," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's my retirement plan." And it's all yours when I go.
It's like everything that comes back in style that once was. Gold teeth and bling, that's all coming back. Like these celebrities are getting gold teeth and all kinds of shiny things.
Of course, these teeth are not gold. These implants, look like actual teeth, unlike my gold. These 3 teeth all replace gold crowns. Right? So these were 3 gold teeth. So my mouth was full of gold. Right? So it's all kind of.
How old were those crowns?
Oh, they go back a little bit. Yeah, they just the tooth that they were attached to just kind of gave way underneath. And
would you ever take out all of your teeth and do what is it? Implants? That thing where they screw in a base?
That's what this is.
Is it so it actually screws in?
Yeah. So what I have are 3 posts that have been surgically implanted into my jaw. 2 in my upper and 1 in my lower. And they implant a titanium. There's a
base.
word for stud.
Stud.
Right?
That sounds official.
I know. And then it's got so it has a screw thread on top. So first they put that in and they screw on a little flat.
Is it standard or metric?
Yeah.
Do we know?
I don't know. It's probably metric.
What tool do you need to get it in or out?
So they screw on a little flat disc on top of it while they. Once you get that implant, it takes time to heal. So they screw a flat disc on top of it, which really is not its tooth substitute. I think just kind of protecting the thread. And then then you go and you get impressions. And then when the tooth is ready, you come back. And so today you did the final step of installing it. So the tooth is in there. So actually, they put the stud in, then they put a crown on top of the stud. So. Yeah, it's in there. It's I'm not used to it yet. It feels like I got something stuck in my teeth, but it's a tooth.
But you can't take it out, right?
No.
Does it ever need to come out?
No.
Like for cleaning, for a tune-up, anything like that?
No, I mean if something happened, they can take it out. But I think it's cemented in actually.
Do they do dentures anymore?
I think they do. But dentures are just a terrible way to live, right? I mean,
it seems like it.
Once you take out all your teeth, your jaw shape changes, and you look different than you would normally. I'm trying not to do too much information here, but my mother, God rest her soul, she had all of her teeth removed at age 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she had multiple tooth issues, right? They weren't the healthiest teeth, but it's what they did back then. So
what year was this? This
would have been a long time ago. She was probably born in 1930 or something like that. And so
was this here in California?
That's a good question. It would be right on the edge. Might be. And she was 21. So when did she come out here? So if she was born in 30, which I think she was, 21 would have been 51. So right on the edge. I know for sure my parents were here in California by 53. I don't know exactly. So maybe it was California. It's hard to say, man. It's right on the cusp. Anyway, they said, look, they had pulled some teeth and she was having more problems. And so they go, hey, your teeth are not good. You don't have good teeth. So we're just going to pull them all and give you dentures. And that's what they used to do.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people have dentures, right? It's really, they very rarely do that anymore. If there's one tooth in your head that is,
a good tooth,
that is a good tooth, they'll anchor all the rest of the teeth to it.
Yeah, why not? Keep that natural look.
Right. So with these teeth, these teeth are all independent, right? They have these titanium studs, welded into my jaw, and And they give it, it takes a few months for it to heal. So I started this process in January of 2020. So last year, in January of last year, I had the surgery, the oral surgery to remove, to pull 2 teeth on the top. The one in the bottom was already out.
Yeah, because the first one tooth replaced 2 teeth that you had pulled out.
It did. And then I had one on the other side removed, and they had to put in cadaver bone for both of those, because those were uppers, and so typically your upper jaw,
which we've explained is why you were so hostile and why you were so irritable, because you had. I'm
going to tell you something.
If I
start biting my tongue, which happens sometimes after you get these teeth in, because you go a long period without teeth in your mouth, your tongue gets used to being in certain places, and then all of a sudden there's a tooth there, and you bite on your tongue, and it hurts, man. So far so good. This tooth feels pretty good already. It's been a couple of hours since they put it in, so I've already eaten a meal.
But when you were a kid, because of your mom's situation, did she really emphasize dental hygiene and all that shit?
Both my grandmother and my mom both.
Did they have floss back then?
They didn't have any teeth to floss. So, I mean, I grew up with both of them running around the house half the time with their teeth in and half the time with their teeth out, and it was disgusting. And there are teeth floating around in glass.
Is that the same kind of trauma for a kid that your parents, like if they're running around naked with like a big bush or something? You think it's the same psychological effect?
Wow, I think you're telling us more about your childhood than mine.
Yeah, there may have been some of that.
Yeah, wow. I just got a picture.
Which I never understood. That seems so uncomfortable to sleep like that, Dad.
Oh my God. So last time I saw my dentist, the same one I went to today, gave him all the podcast information, right? So I come bopping in there today, and I'm like, no, they're probably always pretty friendly, and I like to crack jokes in there and stuff, and so a few appointments ago that I had mentioned I had a podcast, and I told them the name, but I didn't write it down, so they couldn't find it, because Couch Funeral is not exactly the most intuitive name, right? So I go in last time. I go, okay, well, here it is. I showed them on their phone and everything. So this time I come in, and I'm like, okay, so did you find the podcast? Yeah, I found it. Okay, I guess you didn't like it because you don't seem very. So I don't know. It seemed a little.
You asked before they operated on you?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't smart.
I don't know. It seemed a little cool. So I go, well, have you had a chance to listen to it? Yeah, I really have no time to listen to podcasts. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's not exactly what that means.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, hey, that's okay. You don't listen. Nobody we know has to listen to it, right?
But that's good for me, because what I take away is that's another fan for me.
Well, maybe that might be. You never know, right? Because definitely most of the people are going to fall on one side or the other of this aisle. So lots going on. Hey, what do you want to talk about?
Well, a lot going on. I mean, the aisle is as divided as always. I mean,
so the Senate passed the $1 trillion infrastructure bill.
Are you happy about that?
Yeah, I'm happy about that.
Does it prove to you that the adults can work together and accomplish things that they were elected to do?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I mean, definitely. So here's the count. The way I understand it: 50 Democrats and 19 Republicans, which that's
19 more than we thought a couple of weeks ago.
Right. So, this is mostly the hard. I mean, the original bill for this was twice the size. It was $1.9 trillion. So this is right at $1 trillion. It's going to do all the hard infrastructure stuff. So I think I'm all for it. I mean, there's nothing. I can't see anything to be against there. Do I wish they'd done more? I don't think I have a strong feeling on it one way or the other. I always figured that that a Senate bill would, trim it down, and there would be some negotiating. That 1.9 trillion had to be room for negotiating, because.
But here's the room. I mean, the 1 trillion, because the infrastructure bill has stuff that is going to take place for the next 10 years. By the time they actually build shit, that 1 trillion is going to have the buying power of about 100 million.
Well, I don't know about that, but that's these are definitely how do I put this? So these are long-term investments that we have made as a country on a bipartisan basis, and everybody, I think, should be happy about that. So
yeah, the people
there
that
are
are
no immediate short-term political gains really for Democrats, other than Biden was able to get an infrastructure bill passed.
I think that's the most significant. It's one of the things that he ran on, right? So to be able to check off anything on your list of things that you campaigned for, I think is a victory for that party.
Right. And then, both parties have an agenda, right? McConnell did not, part of the negotiating on this was talking with Biden and saying, hey, for us to support this, we want to extract a bit of a guarantee from you that you're not going to go after the 2017 tax cut legislation, that you're not going to try to rewind that or undo it or something like that. So
doesn't that one already have an expiration date? We've beat this around so many times.
I do not know the answer to that.
I mean, there's a lot of components.
You mean
within
where it goes from 35 to 21? I don't think so.
What about the individual rates? I thought some of that was, it was like 5 or 8 years. I could be wrong.
Most of that bill was corporate tax cuts. I don't remember too much.
The individual top rate was dropped, I think 2%, 2.5%, something like that.
I wouldn't think they would be rolling. I wouldn't think there'd be a sunset on any of that. I think the corporate rates are permanent unless it's reversed some way or another. But so they have that, and then and then the Democrats want to pass a $3 trillion reconciliation bill, which they may do. Who knows? It's hard to say. Manchin and what's the other gal's name? It's not Chernobyl. What is
Franchin?
it? Franchin. No, damn it. The female Democrat.
Does she identify as female?
Yes. Anyway, it looks like they may be. In order for them to pass this other massive spending bill through reconciliation, they're going to need Manchin and this other gal. I can't remember her name.
Is this a 2-year deal?
2-year deal?
It wasn't because they didn't do the budget last year. Isn't it 2 years worth of
reconciliation?
Yes.
Yeah, they have. So I don't know. Did they already put one through in reconciliation?
I don't remember.
I think they have the ability to do 2 major pieces of legislation through reconciliation, which with the full Democrat vote in the House. Is it the House? No, it's the Senate, I guess. Oh, yeah, in the Senate. So Manchin and the other gal are in the Senate. So they can do a reconciliation bill of enormous size with reconciliation. But here's the thing. Joe Manchin does not seem to be on board with that. So are they going to get that? Who knows? Remember that this $1 trillion Senate infrastructure bill, Pelosi and other House Democrats have said that, hey, we're not going to approve that if we're not going to move this other one through. So we're not there yet. So I think that if my personal opinion at this stage of the game, sit back in your seats, folks, because the card-carrying Democrat is going to say that. I wish they would not. Just let this infrastructure bill, take it in the House, approve it, and pass it. Don't try to attach it to this $3 trillion spending bill that you're going to do through reconciliation. Just pass it so we can get on with it.
Why do you think that in this day and age, both parties continue to fight tooth and nail over things like budget when, and I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not, when money's basically free, it doesn't really matter how much shit costs. And you've pointed out in the past, hey, it's really the Republicans that don't care about spending and they'll spend.
It's both.
But the truth is, I guess the math is, if in our household budgets we took in less money than we spent, we would have this deficit, there would be no functioning household.
You would buy headphones or microphones.
So how does that work in government? It's just you just carry this endless debt sheet forever that grows and grows and grows, and you just continue to print money.
It appears we do.
So it's not real.
Well, the printed money spends real, just like it. So is it good? I don't.
No, in principle, it's not good.
Yeah, that's probably not good. But the truth of it is that the effects are strung out over a long period of time. There's no immediate effect to anybody involved. So are you pushing debt issues that are going to have to be dealt with down the road to future generations? You probably are.
How do you think that it will ultimately be dealt with? I mean, do you think we're so far past? There's a lot of damn zeros at the end.
I don't know,
of
man.
The deficit now.
We've had balanced budgets and things like that in the past. It could happen.
When was the
again.
last time we had one?
It's been a while, but and it
Did
was
Obama
a
have one?
Democrat. Yeah. Well, was it Obama?
Probably Clinton.
I think it was Clinton. I think
Yeah.
we had actual surplus during Clinton. So, I mean, it can be done. It's just I mean, I don't know how you do it, Travis, when you spend more and tax less almost on a consistent basis. So, and really the 2017 tax cuts, there's no sign that any of that is being made up. It's not trickling down. It's not trickling up. It's not doing jack shit.
Yeah,
it
but
all went into stock buybacks, and that's it. We're not seeing any of it materialize back into the economy.
But it's not fair to blame it on that, because if we're correct in our assumption that the last balanced budget was Clinton, those tax cuts in 2017, there was already a deficit at that time, so it didn't create it.
No, I don't think I said it did. It doesn't help. I mean, if you are looking at overall long-term, deficit spending, then, anytime you cut taxes, you're going in the opposite direction. So
if you continue to spend, which is always, it's a double-edged sword.
Well, here's the thing about that. And so, I mean, it is a fact that the spending is done equally or more on both sides. I mean, the Republicans have spent more during the Trump administration than any previous administration. So the Republicans only care about deficit spending when they're not the administration in power. And truthfully, Democrats don't care. So
they don't care about spending?
They don't care who's in power. They want to spend, but to sit here and say that deficit spending or out of control spending is only done by Democrats is simply nonsense. That's just not the truth. So
yeah, and I didn't say that either.
No,
but
not you.
I think it is. You just have to. You don't have to be in government. You don't have to be an expert to sit back and go, how does any of this make sense, and how does any of this work? If we don't have the money, where are we getting it from? I mean, we're literally just printing it.
Yeah,
come on, this is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you can make as much money as you want. It's not. There's no gold standard or anything.
You know what? That's going to be the next thing. Is that everyday citizens are just going to declare that they make so much money. They're going to report to here's how much money I actually make. Don't believe me? I'm just going to print more with my 3D laser printer, the same one that makes guns.
I don't know. The ATF might have something. What is it? The Secret Service or ATF? Secret Service that handles counterfeit?
I think it is the Secret Service.
Yeah, so weird, the Secret
weird.
Service, right? Yeah, it's like presidential protection details, right? But then it's some other handful of duties that we forget all about, right?
Well, like here in California, the CHP protects the governor.
Right.
Because it's the only, I guess, state.
Yeah. Well, we
don't have marshals here.
You and I have both had the opportunity to spend multiple days at the Capitol, California. And I remember that when I was going there, Reagan was Schwarzenegger was the governor. When several years that I went up to the Capitol every year for business stuff, and actually went into the Capitol building one day, and I was always taken aback by how many highway patrol, but they're really state police. That's really our state police, and
it is, yeah. But they're like the least effective. They're the least manly of all the law enforcement. I mean.
Well, you know what? Here's a little newsflash for the listening audience. There are no state police in this room. So,
but I got friends who are in law enforcement, and they all, CHP is
they
like
should talk to CHP.
Yeah, because they're glorified. I forget what they call them, but
wow, crossing guards.
I think that is what they call them.
Probably.
Just writing tickets and creating nonsense.
Oh my God.
So then, are you happy then? I think I've asked you this before, but as time continues,
I'm not happy about anything.
I just should stop there. Are you happy? Every question are you happy? Stop.
No, yeah.
With every topic.
I'm very happy, but go ahead. There's some things I'm not happy about. So.
Well, so when you look at the Democratic leadership, the job that Joe Biden is doing, co-president Harris, and the things that she's been tasked with, and the reason I ask you that is I read some reports over this last week that suggest there's a pretty big gap in what you would call approval ratings of Biden and Harris. So just within one administration, yes, there's the Dick Cheneys of the world and the other divisive vice presidents in the past, but it seemed to me like this co-president ticket of Biden and Harris was pretty unified, but there's been a lot of reports that suggest her office is in disarray and there's infighting, and this is in the last couple of months. And then I read this report over the weekend that says her approval ratings, if you want to call it that, from U.S. citizens is like a 10-point spread between her and Biden. And that kind of calls into question really is she really the heir apparent? I think was kind of the gist of the article.
Heir apparent. So, I mean, historically, how important are vice presidents? And typically, not that important.
But
yeah, but I don't know. But what?
That's your but. No. Is she the most? So historically, I would agree with you. Is Harris the most important vice president we've had because of the obvious reasons? The senile.
I think you'd have to say that Biden is the most important vice president we ever had.
Why?
He went through 8 years as vice president, not a single what's the word I'm looking for? A scandal, and now he's kicking ass as a president. And look, almost how could he not? Following up Donald Trump, Adolf Eichmann could probably get a pretty good approval rating.
Somebody gave me a Trump comparison. Something I did. Somebody compared me to Trump the other day.
You?
Me?
No. Okay.
Can you believe it?
That's stupid. Listen. Was it your daughter?
No, I'll tell you off the air.
Okay. And so for Biden. I think this is the easiest thing for him is to look and act presidential. But I think besides that, I think he's really doing a good job. I think I think people really feel a sincerity from him that, they pretty much gave up on, right? So we'll see. Long ways to go, right? But I don't know anything about Harris having low poll numbers or anything like that. So I'll check in on that. But to this point, I haven't heard it. So it hasn't bled through to the far left wing.
Of course
media.
It won't. That is censored and it's shielded from you because of the sensitivity of the subject matter.
Where are you seeing that?
Well, I need to start sending you more articles, I guess. But
well, please do.
I don't know that the point of the article was to suggest that she has quote unquote low approval ratings. It was just significantly lower than Biden, which I thought was interesting because here you have the administration and president and co-president. But to your point about Biden when he was vice president for Obama, yeah, he was all those things. He didn't have scandals and this and that. Yeah. But I think of it in terms of importance because of the fragility of Biden. He's clearly senile. There's more and more.
He's not clearly senile.
He is. He has something that he
oh my God.
struggles with. Highs and lows and whatever. You all right there?
Yeah.
But I think the fear and the concern, of course, is twofold. Whether or not, like I say, is he going to die on the job? Is he going to make it 4 years? But even if he actually survives, will he run for another term? And look at his age. You can't deny that. So when I say,
will he run for another term?
Beyond this,
that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. So even then, does he and they and Harris have the support, say, 3 years from now, 3.5 years from now, to run on her own? I don't know.
Well, I don't have a strong feeling on that. For me, she was the vice president. She was the right age and hit some of the other marks that made this ticket, as successful as it was.
The black female, that was pretty much a requirement.
That's all good, right? And so, does she have to become president? That's not a sure thing.
So that's kind of a next kind of where my mind was going. If Biden doesn't seek re-election, and if Harris doesn't, decide she wants the job, is that
she's going to run?
But let's say she doesn't win, is that a failure, if you will, of the last 4 years?
Well, he'll be a failure if she ends up being the candidate in the general election and she loses. That means Trump is probably coming back. So, if it isn't 100% sure that she's going to win in the general election, then I don't want her. Right, so I don't care who it is in 24. that runs on the Democratic ticket, but they have to be a sure thing, especially if there's any chance in hell that Trump's going to be there. I guess you can run for president from prison, but
can you?
But you can't vote for president if you've been to prison. So
you can't vote for himself.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's I heard a lot of discussion about this, and I'm not going to remember their name, but there's a couple of I think they're New York Times reporters or Washington Post reporters that team up and write books together, and they wrote a book recently a while back called Very Stable Genius about Trump, and then they're writing another book, or it's just coming out, or it's due to release soon. Yeah, they've already finished the book. I think it's due to release soon. It's called Only I Can Fix Things, I think is the name of it. So they're both books about Trump, and they've been on several news shows and stuff.
Is it
recently.
pro-Trump books?
No. But the Very Stable Genius was a slam, on Trump, and so neither of them expected that he would not give them an interview prior to that book coming out, but he did almost actually come after them to do an interview with them for this book. But they had already interviewed something like 1,500 people or something for this second book. But they did go down to Mar-a-Lago, and so they spent some time there watching the shenanigans going on there, and he's still holding court down there. So he's in this kind of
I thought he was in New Jersey.
I don't know if he's down in Florida, right? So and wherever he is, it doesn't matter, right? So here's how they described it, right? So this is a resort, right? And so wherever he's at, that's where he lives, one or the other. And I'm sure this is Mar-a-Lago, right? Down there in Florida.
Yeah, well, he was in Mar-a-Lago right after the election,
right.
And then I think in the summer I thought he went to. Either way, it was like one of his clubs.
This was a while ago too. So, and he's holding court down there and acts like he's still the president, and like he'll come out of his office or something into the dining area for this resort, and the band will play "Hail the Chief."
Why is there a band there?
Because you have to have a band if you're going to play "Hail to the Chief."
Yeah, but is this
when you walk into
is
the
this a private band?
Yeah, it's not the Marine Corps band.
Okay, so he doesn't have I know he has Secret Service. Don't you have that for life, no matter what?
I think so.
But you don't have the drummer.
So you shit talk him and you piss him off. Yeah, look, I want the Secret Service, and then I need part of the band down at
you don't get to request what government services you get to keep.
Right. So, there's some kind of fantasy world going on there, and the way they describe it's kind of scary. And when they were asked, "Hey, do you think he's going to run?" Their responses were like this: "Yes." I mean, as soon as so do you think former President Trump will run for re-election in 2024? Yes. Just that quick. I mean, these are the reporters, and they're like, yeah. And I think the one said, well, if Biden doesn't run, then for sure he's going to run and win. Well, there are two questions. Is he going to run? Then do you think he could win? And so the answer, they both said yes, he's going to run. And then the answer to that second question from one of them was, well, if Biden doesn't run, then yeah, he's going to win.
So you think Trump is laying back to see who the nominee is, and then he'll decide if he's going to run?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of time before he has to, make that decision. I mean, he said many times he's going to, but not official. It's not official till you submit the paperwork, right? So that deadline is a long ass way off.
So in your opinion, the Democrats, the one thing they must do is to ensure their ticket is unbeatable.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Can a former president serve as vice president? Can Obama come back and serve as Biden's VP?
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to. I don't think so, but
I mean, I don't think I've read that anywhere.
Yeah, he wouldn't though.
I know that is weird. He didn't really want to endorse him either. Remember all that? That was kind of weird.
No.
He didn't. He came out.
Did he endorse him?
When was the election? Like November?
Did he endorse
2nd?
him?
Yeah, like on October 31st.
There you go. Then he endorsed him.
But he didn't want to, and that's the point. You know it, and I know it. But would he do what's right for the country and serve as the VP if he could?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Why would he? I mean, he's already. I mean, that 8 years as Camelot-like as it might have been in our minds for him, it wasn't. It was terrible. I mean, pictures of him as a monkey, the slings and arrows from the right. It's just disgusting. I would be I would be shell shocked if he would do it.
Yeah,
and Michelle's never going to run for office, so that's never going to happen.
Yeah, and obviously their kids were young.
We need to move on. Right. Well, let's get his kids in there. Let's get one of the girls in.
No, what I mean is, they wanted to get back to living a normal life and, spend time with their kids and all that. I'm just saying, if you could draw up what would be considered an unbeatable ticket, you gotta dig deep.
I'm not sure yet, man. I don't know of any real stars in the Republican Party at this stage of the game. Of course, what's her name? AOC, OCA, ACA.
She's on the Democrat side.
That's what I mean.
She's a lunatic.
Don't you think she's going to run for president?
I don't think she'll even be old enough next time.
She's already old enough.
No, you got to be 35.
Oh, you got to be 35. Is that the only thing stopping her? Well, Chuck Schumer.
He's not young enough.
I think I can tell you one person I'm sure it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Mario Kart.
No,
Mario Kart. Cuomo from New York.
Yeah, that's another thing. You pointed out a while back, that it seems like I like to find cases where these virtue signaling Democrats have, failed and they're not as, glorious and virtuous as they may seem. And, I kind of do. But,
I do want to talk about this, but go ahead.
Well, so what you're referring to, of course, then is
What's his name?
Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew.
Yeah, governor of New York.
Because his father's name was Mario Cuomo. And, of course, that was the son of Mario Kart.
Yes, of course. And also, Andrew Cuomo, he sounds like...
Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, he's the governor.
That's the governor. And then Chris Cuomo is
he's
the
on CNN,
newscaster.
on Constantly Negative News.
Constantly Negative News. So Mario Cuomo,
Andrew
Cuomo, Democratic governor of New York.
Authoritarian dictator during the COVID.
Okay. Has resigned as of yesterday.
Because he kind of had to.
Right. So here's what I want to talk about in relationship to this. So
he had many relationships.
So here's a big name in the Democratic Party, and sitting governor, definitely on the short list for possible presidential nominees in the future, and he was roundly. So he was asked by almost every top Democratic, what's the right word? Person, right? Democratic office holder, including the president, to step down.
Right.
Right. So instead of this shit that we see on the Republican side, where no matter who it is and what they've done, no matter how disgusting and unethical, illegal, or criminal the act is by a Republican office holder, the Republicans refuse to get with it. But you see the difference, the way things are when it comes out that a powerful Democratic governor has abused his office and you abused his power. They pretty damn quickly came at once there was the report by Letitia James, right? And that was Cuomo's ask. Wait for the report. Well, we did, buddy. You're out. And so, I mean, I guess my point is we just don't see this on the Republican side anymore. Well,
listen, I agree with you as a matter of fact, but I read something like that too over the weekend, and my takeaway was, really, is that something to pat yourselves on the back about? And the argument is essentially what you just said, that you see here, we Democrats, we call on each other to do the right thing, and then we respond and we do the right thing. And these fucking Republicans, not only will they not resign, they won't even call on one another to do the right thing. But what I kept thinking is, when you're a Democrat, you have to sign the paperwork and take the oath, right? I subscribe to cancel culture. Either I will do the canceling or I will agree to be canceled.
So is that what you think this is?
No, but I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But I do think...
I'm not going to get you to bite on the fact of how wrong that is. That is just... Cuomo is out on his ass.
But I do think he was being called on to step down by his, what are we calling him? Not constituents, his contemporaries, whatever. Yeah. But it wasn't until, I guess, there was this bombshell report by, what is she,
Letitia James, the Attorney General of the
State of New York. Yeah. It wasn't until there was basically a smoking gun that he did so. So whatever that means, there was calls for him to step down long before he actually did, and he didn't want to. He went down swinging. He didn't want to step down.
He didn't want to, but
does he deny all this?
I think he does. I think his stupid defense is going to be, hey, I never crossed the line, but when I wasn't looking, the line was moved.
Don't you think he's very similar to Trump in that way? So I don't know a lot about him, and I really didn't until
I don't
COVID.
like him. I don't care. Yeah,
he's like a greasy, slimy New Yorker, right?
I'm not a big fan of Andrew Cuomo or whatever his name is. I'm always going to think he's Mario Cuomo. I'm not.
Who's the actor he sounds like?
Well, I don't know.
God, what the hell's his name?
His brother?
No, the Hollywood guy, the old guy now.
I don't know.
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino?
Sounds like Al Pacino. And when I first heard, because it was New York, right? It was the model of, hey, we're doing everything right for COVID and you should do what we do. And a lot of the news outlets here in California were covering his press conferences for COVID.
Yeah, they were on every day.
But I would hear them. I didn't watch them. I'd hear them on the radio or whatever. And I'm like, why the fuck is Al Pacino giving an update about COVID in New York?
Yeah,
why do I care about this?
I can see that. I was working from home while all that was going on, so I saw many of those Cuomo press conferences because they would start at noon our time, and then there's so typically I try to eat my lunch at home at 1:00 if I'm working from home. There's something I like to watch, so I would sometimes see the end of it. So I saw him on TV quite a few times, and it didn't make me like him or more or less or whatever. I don't care about him or New York.
Do you think we possibly witnessed some of the whatever he was doing there on these press conferences? Was he doing a little grab ass?
I don't know, but do you know who's replacing him? The Lieutenant Governor Mary Hochul, I think is her name. So she's got an interesting history. She came into the political world as a replacement for somebody going out on a sexual scandal, in New York politics. So it's an interesting thing that she finally ends up, and not being elected by, this is how
she says she's going to run though.
Well, think about it. I mean, there's going to be an election in 2022, and she's will have been in office for a year and a half, assuming she doesn't make some stupid move and get kicked out. So that'll be interesting. She's not part of the Cuomo inner circle, right? And theoretically, even though she's the lieutenant governor, they haven't spoken for months. And I think that's on purpose because this thing with Cuomo has been going on for quite a while. Remember the first thing that broke after all his, like you said, and they were a little bit hard to take, his press conferences. So whatever you want to call them, his self-serving, holier than thou. Hey, look at us.
You think part of that was a distraction?
Well, I think he was on a roll with that shit, right? And then some bad news came out about some statistics on
the nursing
home deaths, right? And then it was a downhill spiral from there, where some of these allegations, which had already surfaced, started to get more attention, right? And then of course more people. So once you got 11 women coming out and saying, "Hey, he did this, that, he put his hand under my blouse," and it's the shit like that. I mean,
that's the thing. I always say the comparisons to Trump, right? And his whole thing about it was just locker room talk, folks. When he grabs him by the pussy. And all of that, but there's pictures that surfaced about Cuomo and short little video clips that I saw where, yes, it's certainly. So let me just preface by saying I'm not taking anything away from the investigation, and I believe that that's all true, and these women are to be believed.
All right, good for you.
But before all this, when you're just looking at photos on the internet and seeing little video snippets of him maybe introducing a speaker at the podium, and then the way that he hugs and embraces people, it's definitely creepy and it's definitely unprofessional. And then you're going, this isn't the 60s, this isn't Mad Men, and then what do? Like you just reach around, and is that where the blouse slip happens? I mean, what is going on?
Did your hand accidentally pull her blouse out, then go up it and cover her breast?
Because Biden's guilty of that too. He's got the little creepy hair smelling thing that he does, and he gets up behind people closely.
Some part
doesn't let go.
Some part of that is that they come from a different time. I mean, Cuomo's not as old as Biden, but he's probably at least my age, if not older, right? I don't know.
I would guess, yeah.
So, Yeah,
Does that make it all right?
You got to figure it out, right? Just you got to stop doing all that shit.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt. I mean, no matter what,
stop it.
Even if you come from a time when that shit is okay, you have to understand that times change. I was reading this interesting, God, what was it? It was like an article, but it was more or less kind of a spreadsheet on the different generations, and it was from this university. I don't remember what, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And it was talking about essentially the behaviors of the traditionalists, the baby boomers, the Gen Xers, and the millennials. And it's like 11 pages long, and it has certain categories for how these generations like to work, how they communicate, how they like feedback, how they like to use tech, and all of those things. A lot of it is what we kind of assume. It's very stereotypical, but it's fascinating to see just over time how things have changed. And I found myself, which I think is kind of natural, I found myself thinking about people that I either knew in these various buckets, and or myself, and reading these things, thinking, yeah, I do that, and I do that, and I know this person, and oh fuck, this is where that comes from, and it's I think it's interesting because there's
grabbing your crotch and pointing at it with your other hand. Is that,
yeah.
Which generation does that come from?
That goes all the way.
Hey, I got you right here.
I think that's just New York all the way.
Is it? Hey, I got your Me Too right here. I had my first boss. His name was Leo, and I worked at a gas station for slave wages, $1.50, I think. I was an idiot. So anyway, it was 100 years ago. So Leo.
What was the minimum wage back then?
I don't know. Could it have been $1.50?
Probably.
It could be, I guess. So, just pumping the gas, wiping the windshields, right? So, it was full service. There was no self-serve at that time.
Did you get tips?
We didn't want people to touch the pump. Hey, get your fucking hand off the pump. What are you doing? No, I didn't get tips. No. So you come out and you're like, hey, can I, what can I get you? Hey, fill it up, catch the windows for me. Would you check my oil or whatever? So this older lady, this guy Leo was probably, at this point he was probably in his early 70s, right? He owned the gas station.
He must have looked 100.
Leo Lasala. Well, in my mind he does. He's white-haired Italian guy with a white shirt.
In his 70s,
shirt.
in 1970.
Yeah, wearing blue gas station pants, with the key thing hanging off his side. And I'm probably from New York. He had a heavy accent. So this lady came in and she says, Hey, Leo, can you check my turn signal? I think the light's out. And so he checks. He goes, yeah, it's out. And she goes, hey, can you give me a new turn signal? And he goes, hey, lady, I got your turn signal right here. And he grabs his crotch. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
What'd she say?
Nothing. It's like she didn't see it. I'm like, what is that? So I don't even understand to this day, right? I don't know. He was the weirdest guy. It's like he got irritated that she asked him twice.
Well, what he was saying is, I have one. I can give it to you. And, there is a form of legal tender we can arrange here, and it's not cash.
Oh, my God. It's so funny. Yeah. So, some of the things, I think back, I was 16. I was driving. So I was at least 16 when I started working there. So that was a long ass time ago. It was probably 73 or something, right? So. So much has changed. It seemed modern in 73, right? The 70s seemed modern, right?
And that's really kind of the point is whatever. I bitch about this too. I think on one of our last few podcasts, I said something like, am I turning into that generation where it's, the get off my lawn kind of attitude?
Are you turning into your father?
Yeah, where you don't want to change, but you recognize that things are changing. And some of the change is bullshit and stupid, and like most of what's happening with left-wing politics.
I like the commercials where the guy has got the group of people that are turning into new homeowners that are turning into their parents.
What is that, an insurance commercial?
What in the fuck is that? See, that's how I judge commercials. Like, I don't think it's a good commercial because I don't know what it's for. Right?
Yeah, but you know how we were bashing, mainly you were bashing the drug companies and that whole conversation we had. And
by the way, I haven't gotten any free drugs from any of them
right.
as a inducement to shut up or anything.
But those mini movies that they make, to talk about how great the drugs are, and there's barbecues and picnics and fast cars and endless rounds of golf and all that shit. But the better commercials are the insurance commercials.
Yeah.
They
got an Academy Award winner, right? what's that guy's name? The bald-headed guy.
J.K. Simmons.
Yes. So I mean, he's like the biggest. He's an Academy Award-winning actor.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like the main guy you see on TV for whatever insurance company.
What
Allstate or something.
It? No, it's
No, Prudential.
Nope.
No.
What is it?
We've got you covered. Because,
State Farm? I think it's State Farm.
The State Farm has a massive advertising. Is it State Farm? Yeah.
But some of the commercials, I mean, you're right. If you don't know, if the commercial is good enough to hold your attention and you don't know what it's for, it's a good commercial. But they are trying to sell something. But I saw a commercial one time, literally, and I don't understand it. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. It's literally advertising cotton. Not Fruit of the Loom, not Hanes. It's just cotton.
I can see the logo for cotton.
The fabric of our lives. Cotton is great.
Okay.
And there's no call to action. It's not we need water to make cotton. It's not we need people to pick cotton. It's not you need to buy more cotton because
not the cotton manufacturer.
It's just literally clouds of beautiful cotton, and it says cotton is great.
Making me kind of sleepy right now just thinking about it.
And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but what the fuck is the point?
Yeah.
So is water. So is air. Do I need a commercial for those things?
I find that to be the case with a lot of commercials, right? And I don't hate commercials the way I know a lot of people do. I hate crappy commercials, but I mean, the good ones are good, right? I mean, and the J.K. Simmons ones are good. I watch them like I was watching his movie or something, right? And I'm always amazed. And he's made a lot of, and the other one I love is the insurance company with Flo and all that.
Progressive,
that whole group. I mean, those people are making entire careers out of it.
I know.
And they've been around now for fucking forever. And it doesn't matter whether they're in the commercials or they're cartoon versions of those characters or what. It's incredible. So,
what do you think is going to happen with the influence of advertisers? We've talked about this too with Facebook and Twitter and all those things. But like, for example, my kids and that generation, everything is streaming and downloaded and these pay for services that you just skip the ads. I mean, that's a lot of them offer a premium service where it's ad free. So the providers, of course, are making their money by the subscription fees. But the influence of the advertiser really isn't there.
Where are the advertisers going? So
where are they going?
How are they getting to it? But you have young kids, and so I don't. But I have seen this behavior in our nephew, who's 6 years old right now. So for the last 6 years, we've been watching, see, kind of how what he's exposed to as far as media. And so he's on the iPad a lot, and he's seeing something. I mean, so here's one form I've seen the advertising take. You got toys, you're a toy maker, you get kids to play with your toys.
That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
And then kids out there kill to sit and watch these kids play with those toys, and then of course in turn they want those toys.
I mean, it's unwrapping the toy, it's playing the toy, it's dunking the toy in water, it's burying the toy in sand.
Yeah, it's unfucking believable, really.
And some of these videos, they're like that's their whole career. These kids and these families, they put some pretty professional videos together.
Yeah,
it's
they got
freaky.
the one kid that goes to the Cretaceous campground or something, the dinosaur thing, and him and his father have the Jurassic Park vest and all this shit, and it's pretty elaborate. And then I can't think of the kid's name, but there's one kid that's more famous than all the rest that's been doing it for a while. I mean, I think he's in college now. He's still doing it. So.
Well, I mean, there's of course YouTube stars, but like for example, do you know this Blippi character?
No.
There's this guy on YouTube. His name is Blippi.
Oh,
and he goes around and he dances all funny and he talks like a kid. And he goes to the dump, to the zoo, to a baseball field, whatever, and he just digs around through shit and tells you what it is, and kids are fascinated by it. But it's on YouTube.
Oh my God.
And so then periodically an ad will come up, but then you know how you get that prompt after 5 seconds to skip ads.
Skip the ad.
My kids are like oh, these ads, and they're ready to skip it.
5 seconds.
They're not sitting through anything.
I don't watch much TV that where I know I'm going to have, a lot of ads, right? So I'm not watching much broadcast TV. I don't watch anything that isn't news or documentary, but pretty much I don't watch anything that isn't news on broadcast television. Like, so on ABC or CBS or NBC,
we know you didn't watch the Olympics.
There isn't a single show on those channels that I ever watch. I finally figured out and it wasn't easy where to go to find the Olympics, right? So
What do you mean it wasn't easy?
we're one of a handful of people that subscribed. This had nothing to do with this.
You mean every day when I would send you information like, here's the Olympics?
No, the Peacock. We have subscribed to the Peacock streaming service. So every thing that was on the Olympics is there for you can go there right now and watch it. So as it turned out, probably in the last 2 days of the Olympics, there was some family get together. It was over the weekend or something. Anyway, we did spend a little time pulling up some, like I watched the all around gymnastic thing where the one girl got the gold medal and got to see the other girl Biles do her her bronze medal routine. So we did get to see a few of those things on Peacock, but most people don't have Peacock. So then you had to figure out. So NBC has like 5 or 6 platforms, right? There's NBC, there's CNBC, there's I'm going to get this wrong. There's sports news, NBC.
MSNBC.
There's MSNBC, but there wasn't much Olympics on there. There was there's a sports one. There's an NBC Sports cable channel. There was a lot of stuff on there, a couple of them. And so they were spread out all over the place. So at any given moment during the Olympics, there were probably 3 or 4 different NBC platforms but I don't think that is working for them as well as they think. So here's what I heard statistically wise. Much like the Emmys and the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes, nobody was watching.
Yeah, but that's for a different reason. Nobody watches those award shows because they don't want to see woke celebrities complaining about the world's problems.
Okay.
And
I can go with that.
The viewer numbers for those shows have been in decline before really this cultural shift. It's because they're boring and nobody wants to see, rich people stand up there and congratulate themselves who pretend for a living.
Okay.
But I think
what about things like Super Bowl numbers and the Olympics? What's going on?
Oh, those were terrible. They were way down.
Yeah. So,
well, you know what I think about that is
I think it's ad based. I think it's all ad based. Entertainment platforms are on their way out. People just don't want to see the ads there. They don't want it. Plus, any kind of streaming situation gives you better options with minimal commercials. I mean, Peacock. I think Debbie paid $100, and that was like, so there's a version of it for $50. You get tons of commercials. There's a better version of it for another $50, so it's $100. You get less commercials, but everything I see on there has commercials. And then there's another tier for that Peacock thing where you don't have any commercials. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. And
you're paying for the lower one?
The middle one. I think she dropped $100 on it because I think when she upped it, right, went to the next tier, she thought she was getting completely commercial free. So I think that's a little bit of buyer beware there, but they don't make it easy because she's smart and they got her.
Well, and that's the thing is as more people gravitate and embrace streaming services, they're going to continue to raise their fees. I mean, I think Netflix was kind of the pioneer, right? And they've had, I think 3 price increases in the last year and a half.
I don't pay any attention to it because I want Netflix, I want Prime, and I kind of like Disney, and I like HBO. So I don't care what any of those guys charge. We'll pay it.
Yeah, you said the same thing about bacon.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Bacon. Debbie says that, I am like I do most of my grocery shopping at Rouse because that's the company that Debbie used to work for, and that's the closest supermarket to my house. So I've been shopping there forever.
And it's the one if you get kicked out of, it's the closest walk home?
It's the closest walk home, yeah. I've come close. And but I don't check prices, right? And I don't use coupons for the most part. Every once in a while, and they mail it. So Ralph's mails you coupons. They watch what you buy, and then they mail you coupons for that shit so you buy more of it. It's good. I like it. But typically, most of the time, I don't go in for coupons. I don't wait to buy stuff till I have coupons, and I don't check the prices. So someone says, "Well, what'd you pay for that?" I have no fucking idea.
Yeah, I mean, you're a 1%er. You don't need to worry about that shit.
So, well, the way I look at it, I think really more than that is like, look, if it's some food thing there, if I'm in the store and I'm looking at some kind of small appliance like what's the one pot cooker thing that everybody loves so much? It's everybody's braved over the last few years, and you can buy them in all the supermarkets. And You know,
I know what you're talking about. I forget the name.
Yeah, I might buy one of those. I might think about, and I'm going to look at the price, and then I'm not going to know if that's a good price or is that way over. So, but other than that, food items. I mean, if I want peanut butter, if I want bread, and certainly, if a little mental picture of bacon creeps into my mind, I'm buying the fucking bacon. I don't care what it costs. Although I will say, so I heard some numbers on the way today. So inflation has run let's just call it 8% over last year. And this is for stuff like food and stuff like that. So just a general number. Some things are more than other things. Milk is a full $1 more than it was last year, stuff like that. So, I mean, I could totally get that's going to be very hard. But here's the thing about inflation, right? It's going to level out. This is
level out, but not
going to go backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to stop increasing. Prices are going to go up. Prices are always going to go up. But this has been a quick rise, and that makes it hard for people. Instapot.
God damn.
That's the one. Good job.
I'm trying to find the solutions faster.
Yeah, and we don't have an Instapot. So,
I don't either.
So let me show you how this works in our 1% household. We're not 1%. So Instapot, everybody bought it. There's a couple of different sizes, so it can be pretty cheap. It can be a little more expensive, but one pot was the thing, right? No. We couldn't get an Instapot. I almost bought it 3 or 4 times. Debbie had to have the Ninja cooking system, right? Which is twice as big as the Instapot and does a bunch of other shit. And everything that she's done in it so far, it's done pretty well, but it's really, is it a glorified pressure cooker?
Yeah.
Right?
It's only available in California and Colorado, right? Instant Pot?
No, not Instapot.
Oh, Instapot.
Yeah, and not even Instapot. Ninja is what I'm talking about. She bought a Ninja. So Ninja is a competing brand with Instapot.
Yeah, they make blenders and all kinds of things.
Right.
I know you're partial to your blenders.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? I have a blender that we bought. It's an Oster, right? That's the brand name, Oster. We bought it.
Oyster.
Yeah, we bought it at a county fair, Orange County Fair, 100 years ago. $150 in like 82.
I thought about you. I went to the Orange County Fair this year, and I was looking for a new blender for you.
Oh, did I tell you the story?
You've told me.
So we bought it there, and we still use it. I mean, we've had a couple other blenders. They just fucking broke right in our hands. It's like, okay, get the other one. So I don't know. I saw her whip it out the other day to make some sauce for some Mexican food she was making, and I'm like, oh my God, we're still using the blender from 1982 from the fair. It's all steel, It's just funny, and I have tried to buy the square blenders so I can make smoothies and all that shit, and they just break. I mean, it's just like so sad. And as far as the Ninja, the little bullet blenders and all that shit, I hate those. At one point we had
we have one here.
Do you?
Yeah.
At one point we had like 3 of them at the house. When Debbie's dad got sick, someone told them that would be good to, because he was having a hard time swallowing and stuff. So, get these bullet blenders, and you can make these drinks.
Well, they're nice and convenient, and a lot of times the cup that you drink it out of is the actual little blender. So, you want a smoothie? I'll make you a smoothie.
No, but they fucking break. They're not very well made. They're pretty expensive, and yeah. So there's a complete ban on bullet products in my house. Nobody
go
can't
back.
Bring them. We don't use them. I won't let you buy me one.
Don't discriminate against the ninjas.
No, not ninja.
Just because
bullet.
they're black.
Yeah.
Go back to this inflation thing. I read another report.
Okay.
If you want to call it that.
Yeah.
That was some survey, of course, whatever value you want to put on that. That the majority of Americans polled, of course, in this particular survey, was some large number, blame Biden for the rate of inflation that we're experiencing. What are your thoughts?
I haven't heard that.
I might have just made it up.
I'm like, really?
But don't you love that, though? This poll taken here and that poll. I mean, what's a poll? A poll is the responses from the people that you asked. If you asked 10 toothless Republicans, what do they support Trump?
I think polling is in a state of flux right now. Polling used to be pretty accurate when they were calling landlines at people's homes, but now nobody has a landline. So,
I know.
Who knows who they're getting, and nobody answers their phone anymore. If if I don't see your name on there, and I'm not waiting to talk to you, I'm not answering the phone. So if some number comes in from a polling situation, if you don't leave me a message, I'm never going to have anything to do with it. And if I listen to your message and you're a polling place, I'm not doing that either.
You're not calling back.
Right.
Well, how much do you place any? What if anything? Let me ask it this way: in your opinion, what if anything can Biden do about the current state of inflation?
I don't think there's anything to do, right? I think that it is a result of some short-term supply chain issues, and I think that the S&P companies have jumped on a chance to jerk the prices up, which they're right. That's what they do. That's going to chill out. The supply chain issues are going to calm down too, and inflation is going to level out.
But don't you think, from Biden's
There's nothing
perspective,
he can do about it in the short term?
Yeah, but I almost wonder if this is a blemish, if you will, because doesn't it kind of slow down the momentum that they've gained?
So this is going to be so some fabricated idea that some minimal amount of inflation after so long of no inflation is going to be the blemish or the deal breaker or the straw that broke the camel's back for the Biden administration. After all of the fucking bullshit that we've been through, it is
that's not
ridiculous.
That's not even the point I was making.
All right, go ahead and make the point.
The point is it going to be a blemish or a slowdown in the momentum that the Biden administration and the Democrats have been gaining about trying to get the bottom end wages and coming up? Which have, right? This finally
they're coming up.
They're coming up, but really you haven't gained any buying power because of the rate of inflation. So what I'm saying is, are they going, fuck, we finally got these wages up and now we have this inflation? You see what I mean? Like, are they looking at it like we can't win here?
Yeah, I don't know. At where are we? This is August, so at 7 months into the administration, I don't think they're spending much time on that kind of stuff yet. I think that they're happy with everything that's happened with the economy. It's pretty hot, right? Inflation is a sign that the economy's moving. Is it overheated or something? That's another question.
But here's another snippet of news that, excuse me, that I read over the weekend was that for the first time, the majority of workers have a rate of pay above $15 an hour. It's like 80-something% of people employed, their rate of pay is over $15, which has been the benchmark and has been the rallying cry from the left for a long time. And you have several states and counties and whatever that have imposed higher minimum wage rates that have kind of like a schedule that they're to meet.
So what does that statistic really mean? Is it 80% of minimum wage earners are now over 15%, or 80% of all wage earners are over?
That's how I read it. Yes,
hour?
That's how I read it. 80% of all wage earners.
I would fucking hope so.
Yeah. And of that, I don't know how much of it is driven by what I just said, states that are pushing it through and like California, I think, is at 15 already, right?
Close, so within $1.
Right, and then there are some states that maybe next year will hit 15, and 2 and 3 years.
I know, but I think many companies have jumped their entry level.
That's exactly,
up, right?
and that is,
which is a good thing. That's
yes,
fine.
so like the Walmarts of the world, the Amazons of the world. We bash Amazon, but they were one of the first companies,
right,
a long time ago.
But I think
a higher
the important
baseline
number would be, hey, I mean, what is the percentage of all wage earners that are typically above the minimum wage to begin with? I mean, so I would have thought, if you had asked me, I would have thought that 90% of all wage earners make more than the minimum wage, and only the bottom 10% work for minimum wage. And then for that bottom 10%, I would suggest that should be raised to $15 an hour. So if that's not the way the numbers shake out, then I just have to know so I could change it. If what you're saying is that, hey, now out of 100% of people that make minimum wage, 80% of that 100% is above $15 an hour, and that's an improvement over what it was before. Good. And then we still need to bring the other 20% up, right? And if that needs to be done with mandated federal $15 an hour minimum wage, I'm all for that too.
Yeah, and of course, I disagree with that politically.
Everything I just said.
No, I mean, I disagree with. Well, I disagree with forcing it through, of course. But the real point is this. I mean, I'm totally in favor of businesses pulling it through, just like I'm in favor of businesses requiring vaccines. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of capitalism. We get to make the rules, and if you want to play the game, you have to abide by the rules. Yeah. So if I can't find workers for $15 and I got to pay them $25,
isn't that what's happened? Isn't that what happened? We had this huge amount of the workforce fall out of the workforce, right? Become unemployed,
right?
So really, the only people that kept their jobs were the people that could work from home and were in essential industries, right? So I guess, I don't know.
Well, it ended up being a wide list.
You're at Starbucks is an essential industry.
Well, food and beverage, yeah.
So, I mean, those people all stayed employed and stuff. But then a huge amount of people dropped out of these gals get hotter and hotter.
I'm going to turn the TV off in here if it distracts you.
Oh, my God. A huge amount of people went out of the workforce. So now that the economy's picking back up, or, unless it's going to stall again because of all this COVID stuff. So it's picking back up. Businesses want to hire. They can't find people. So in that kind of a marketplace, right, the wages they're offering at all level positions should be going up, right? So
which I think it is.
They're going up, or there's their bonuses, or they're giving you a free Starbucks card or something to come over.
A ton of hiring bonuses.
Yeah, shit like that. So, I mean, I think that that is an unforeseen good thing that's coming about because of COVID. I don't think anybody in their right mind would have said, hey, I would be willing to trade 700,000 lives for that to happen. I don't think anybody would.
Yeah,
would
I
ever
think
have
it
said
is
that, but
a positive, unforeseen event. But here's
nothing you can do about it.
But here's the whole point of that, and here's the kind of oxymoron of the whole thing is that the wages have gone up, but did you really gain anything? Did you gain any buying power because of this massive inflation that we're experiencing?
Okay, not massive.
It is massive.
Not massive. It's
year over year.
8%.
When do you get 8% year over year?
But it's going to be a.
When's the last time we had that?
It's going to be a one-time 8%.
You think?
It's not 8% year over year.
Well, that remains to be seen.
Well, go back.
It's going to be 8 and 3.
Go back over the last 10
3.
years. What does that equal out to? 0.5% or something a year? It's not. It's been 8% from this time last year. We're coming out of a pandemic, a huge business shutdown. Prices are going to go up, especially when the supply chain is so fucked up like it is for a variety, not the least of which is COVID. I mean, this is an artificial thing happening to the inflation. So,
but here's the real truth.
I'm not worried about it.
But here's the truth.
Yeah,
nobody really knows because we haven't experienced it. We don't know if it's temporary, if it's transitory, like they say. We don't know, if it's going to be standard 2% next year or the year after that. I mean, with all these COVID variants continuing to go crazy, and in the northern hemisphere, we're winding down our summer and going into fall and winter. Who knows what's going to happen?
So are you trying to get me to say that this increased inflation is going to be some kind of huge thing for the Biden administration?
No, I'm not trying to get you to say anything.
No, I know. I don't mean it like that. But I mean, is that the point you're trying to make? That, hey, is this going to – because I think you asked me that question.
Yeah, the question really was to the Biden administration. If you're Biden and his team, are you worried about that at all? Are you, on one hand, celebrating the fact that, hey, this isn't the way we thought we were going to pull these wages through, but we'll take it.
Right.
But then at the same time going, well, fuck, what are we really gaining because of the inflationary pressures? Do they see it is that anything that they – we started the show by talking about the infrastructure bill. And anytime you can check off on your list of things that you campaign on that you accomplish, that's a positive, right?
Yeah.
So here they have a gift, if you want to call it that, out of all the bullshit with increasing wages, and then really it's kind of negated by the inflation. So I mean, if it were me,
to some percent, I mean, I guess 8%. It's 8% blunted at this point. I don't think it's. I mean, really. I don't think so. If the question is about the Biden administration, my guess is that they're of the opinion that
he forgot about it.
Yeah, he forgot. What inflation? No, I think in their minds and their advisors are probably telling them just what I said earlier. It's a one time. This is atypical one-time situation. Nobody knows what the inflation will be in the future, but the only thing that's really out of whack has been the COVID and the supply chain issues. That's all going to smooth out eventually. Will inflation be a little higher than it was before? I don't know. I think a hotter economy always means a little bit more inflation. So, we've had a relatively slow economy since 2008, right? And so the recovery was steady and continuously on the rise, but it was never fast enough to generate a bunch of inflation. So one thing that since 2008, even though the economy has come back and through both the Obama and through the Trump administration and continues to prosper and grow under the Biden administration, it's not overheated. So it's not generating out of whack inflation. But this inflation is higher than we would have expected. But I think it's 100% due to the supply chain and the opportunistic tendencies of business, which is fine. I don't begrudge business the chance to get a little higher margin, because their ability to do that has been somehow artificially suppressed since 2008, because nobody could raise price. Nobody thought they could raise their price because we're recovering. We're in this recovery, and the recovery has been going on since 2008. It's 2021. So I don't begrudge business. I mean, if I'm going to raise price in my business or somebody else's business, I'm going to tack on extra so that my margin increases.
Well, and now is
I'm
certainly
not here
the time
for your benefit as a business person.
And if you're going to cite, historical, say in the last period of recovery, kind of that 1% to 2% inflation, you're right. The opportunities to increase your margin in that window were much smaller.
Yeah.
But let me dig a little deeper then.
Right, let's dig.
Don't you think though that if not this rate necessarily, because I would hope and think that an 8% rate wouldn't continue year over year for the next few years.
I would hope not.
But say it's time for the next election and we're still experiencing high inflation, that can't bode well for Biden.
I think it depends. I agree, but I think the amount of effect that has will probably directly correlate to the popular opinion about what effect that's had on the economy, right? I mean, I don't think typically the American people are kind of out of practice in monitoring inflation because it's been non-existent for so long.
But don't you think what people do monitor is how it affects them? I mean, how are their lives now compared to when they're called to vote? When they're called upon every 4 years. Yeah. I think for all the normies out there, they probably go, how has my life been under the last administration, and how do I think it will be under the new one?
Well, I mean, every election is the economy, stupid. I mean, that's the lesson we better learn, right? Trump learned it the hard way. He had this booming economy, and he was taking all the credit for it. And somehow the stock market, completely understandably, was on the rise, and Main Street really wasn't nearly as good as you would think from all the touting of the stock market, but it was good for him until it wasn't, and then he ate shit. And
but that was because of COVID.
Exactly. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, right? So it's the economy. I mean, I think we've talked about this. I don't know. I think, look, 2 impeachments. Okay, it's not nothing. Yeah, I know what you think about it, but the fact is, and it's widely agreed, that the Republican Senate during both of those situations failed to do their duty. So I don't know how many times the American public would allow that to go on. So had he won, right, had COVID never come, I think at some point the American people would have just got sick of the stink, and they would have took him out either way. I don't know. Here's the other thing I don't know. I don't know how much more damage would have been done to the democracy, to the country, to our psyche.
So if Trump had won, we'd be 7 months right now. We'd be 7 months into his
second term.
So we'd have 3.5 years left, right, basically. You think that in that window that he would get removed?
I think that had he stayed in, he would have been impeached again, if not multiple times.
But how about actually removed? Do you think he would?
Well, I mean,
what is that called? Convicted?
Well, I mean, it's when would the American people have got fed up with the nonsense, right? I love the lamp. I'm looking at the lava lamp, folks. It's starting to put me.
Yeah, you're distracted by lava lamps and news anchors.
So yeah, I mean, I for me, it's a fascinating exercise to sit back and try to visualize what would have happened if he continued, and we would have just watched him continue to disintegrate at the breakneck pace that he is. I mean, the guy's
let me ask you
narcissistic, megalomaniac, lying piece of shit. And how long would the American people have put up with it? We don't know the answer to that.
Let me ask you this question, and feel free to give the answer off the top of your head for millions to hear.
Okay.
Would you, if you could,
tens of tens,
if you, Michael Watkins,
yeah,
could wave your magic wand,
yeah,
would you bring the COVID, knowing that however many people were going to die, if you knew it guaranteed that Trump was going to be out of office, or would you rather not have COVID and let Trump stay in office?
Well, that's actually as horrible a question as that is.
Have I asked you that before?
No. Although I kind of saw it coming. Yeah, I would never bring this COVID to accomplish that. I mean, here's what I can say after the fact when I can do nothing about it. I'm glad that, and I do believe that COVID is responsible for him, losing the election. But I would never have traded, him being taken out of office, and for bringing the COVID. I just would never do that. I mean, we don't want to talk about this much more, but I will say that probably there was going to be some large number of people that were going to die as a result of COVID-19. And I think that it's just the only thing I can say about it is just unfortunate that the way it was handled. I think a lot more people died than needed to die. And I think much of that falls directly on his shoulders for the way he behaved during the entire thing. Yeah, but, I think that at some point, or 7 months into it, a year into it, two more years into it, I don't know. I think that the way he was going, if you look at the way his atrocious behavior was escalating year after year through the whole administration, I think it's a sure thing that he would have crossed lines that even the most ardent right-wing Republican Party person would have to say, yeah, no, you can't do that. Or
not.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be too serious, but I mean, I think that, but I have to put it in the most stark, serious thing I can. I think that the future of the government, of the country, depended on him being gone sooner rather than later. So, but even at that, I wouldn't have sacrificed 600,000 or 700,000 people to make that happen. So, and at some level, Travis, because you know how much I'm out of fucks about things, right?
Yeah.
I think that people got what they deserved. I mean, look.
With Trump, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, the people of America voted Trump in, and they got their ass kicked for it, and in so many ways.
But also, it was pretty.
You get the government you deserve,
and also it was pretty obvious. Like to me, there was no surprises there. That's what was shocking to me is throughout his 4 years, the narrative escalated. Like, I can't believe what he did now. Oh my God, he's stooped to a new low. It was all pretty much textbook to me. Like,
all low.
Yeah, this was, pretty predictable.
All low, yeah. So, I think that and for me, so I'm happy he's gone, and however that happened. But if you're going to ask me that question, I have to answer it like that. No, I would have rather just skip COVID and let the people of the United States figure it out on their own, which they probably would have. Okay, it's really dark and really what's the word? It's really dark of me to assume that the people of the United States would have let him continue with his nonsense until he broke the back of the whole, country.
But did I understand you correctly that if it wasn't for COVID, he would have been reelected?
I don't see how he wouldn't have been.
Same ticket, Biden Harris, no COVID.
Unfortunately, we'll never know. I mean, I think Biden is the anti-Trump. That's what I think. Had there been no destruction of the economy, the recovery, or had there, just having Biden on TV every day on an equal platform with him may have done the trick. I mean, it has certainly done it since.
If
right?
Biden is the anti-Trump, what impact did Harris actually make? Did he need her, or could he have picked anybody?
I think that Harris helped bring along some of the more non-white factions of the Democratic Party to a higher level of support, right? So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, we've talked about what little we know about it as non-political people, but I mean, politics, there are certain things that you need to take into account. If you don't, you're going to be, you're going to be a fool. So, I mean, Biden brings all the non-racist, non-disaffected, non-scared white people to the poll.
Speaking
right?
of
and there's a lot of us.
Speaking of non-white, did you see the new the new census data released as of today?
I heard a bunch of it today.
Nobody's white anymore.
Well, I don't know about that. The minority numbers or whatever you want to say are going to be, especially Hispanic, and then, that's a complicated issue because really, are you Hispanic? Are you Latino? What does it really mean? Is your hereditary, is your background Spanish, right? That's Caucasians, right? Those people were Caucasian. Spaniards are Caucasian or not.
Why does it matter?
Hispanic
Why
and
does
Latino
it matter?
are not racist, okay?
Why does it matter down to that level on a census questionnaire?
Here's the thing. Hispanic is a combination of indigenous people and white people from Europe. And I think it has changed. I think that we're just probably our categories are insufficient. There's only really 3 race categories. And I think that because the world is smaller now and there's been a lot more, it's a much more diverse world. I think that maybe we need to update some of those categories. 3? Well, the 3 are black, white, and Asian.
Isn't that go all the way back? I think we had this conversation.
Well, there are names, right?
Yeah, but from from anthropology all the way back to human history, it really is those 3.
It is those 3.
It's only ever been those 3.
I told Debbie a long time ago when we talked about this. I go, well, there's Caucasoid, there's Negroid, and there's Mongoloid. She's like, look, we're not Mongoloid. We're not.
Right.
Hey, I'm not saying you're. That is an epithet. That's a discriminatory name for people with Down syndrome. Okay, it's not a race. So, but those are the 3, and I think maybe there's been enough mixing of the races over the years, and in places like South America and even Mexico and the United States and things that. And in other places of the world, right, where black people have gone to different. What's the word I'm looking for? Islands. I want to say Caribbean or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
Right. And so I think that probably
it's called the advent of travel.
Yeah. The what?
The advent of travel.
The advent of travel.
And that trend is only going to continue.
Yeah. So, I think for me, all it really means, Travis, is it doesn't matter. Right?
So
it doesn't
why?
matter what your race is.
Of course, right. But I agree with you. But on the census, I filled it out. Did you?
Yeah.
I remember. It's way too complicated, and it's not just one question. They ask you 10 different ways in every way that they can think of to really drill down. And what they're trying to figure out is, are you white or are you anything else? And then it's this whole complicated web. Yeah. So my question is, why does the U.S. Census...
Something else Trump tried to fuck up, if you think back and remember it.
I remember. But why do we need to ask the questions to that level of detail?
Not really a census expert, but I would say that
it's for redistricting and shit like that, right?
For so many things, right? To allocate resources that are and will become available over the next 10 years.
Yes.
two different groups of people, whatever they are. And then, of course, there's some political stuff. There's some redistricting stuff going on there whenever the Republicans aren't fucking that up.
But why does it matter if you have Hispanic roots from South America or from Europe or from Cuba?
I think the census this year was trying to drill down a little bit on anybody that would put Hispanic or Latino down on the forms. There were more questions about that. And yeah, I mean, I think it's valid for them to know. Ideally, we great if everybody was colorblind and everything was kumbaya and all that.
But all we really are saying is you're either Asian, you're white, or you're black.
Well, but I disagree now. I mean, I've always held that in my mind. But I mean, take Latinos or Hispanics or whatever the right name is now for that group of people. They're really as a group. I think at this point there has been enough mixing of actual Caucasian, European, Spaniards with other people around the world, especially indigenous peoples in places like South America and Mexico and Cuba and name a few of them, right? And so that you may not. I mean, those people are not going to want to be. Those people are not going to want to be lumped into the Caucasian
group.
Who
cares what they want?
They care. Oh my God!
But go back to
that's Travis. Travis at Travis.com.
I mean, is there really any such thing as indigenous people? Aren't we really saying that the history of man was those three groups that migrated, and when the land masses of this planet were closer together, and you had the ice bridge and all that? So when we say indigenous people, whether they're Aborigines in Australia or the Native Americans, at some point they all go back to those three groups that we were talking about, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, so what happens is that the Spanish, European, Caucasian people that colonized South America and Mexico, for that matter, mixed with the Asian people that came over the ice bridge and so forth from Asia and became what we now know as indigenous
Which
people.
Would be what period, by the way? Like,
I don't know. That's out of my
5,000, 8,000 BC, something
out
like
of
that.
Probably. I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you. That's a good question. That's probably answerable. So, I mean, is long enough ago for people from Asia to come across, migrate down into the North America and all the way down into South America, and then go through actual physical changes in their look and so forth. And so we know those people in North America as Native Americans or Indians or whatever they want to be called. And the same thing down into South America, right? And so then you get all these basically Caucasian people coming from Europe, especially from Spain, was a world power and, did a lot of colonization and conquering and stuff. And they mixed. And so now are they Caucasian?
I don't know. But that's relatively recent, though, in human history.
Well, relatively, right? But I mean, I think the time between when the people migrated out of Asia into North and South America, that was a longer period of time. The mixing with the European Caucasians from Spain and Portugal and whatever is more recent for sure. But I'm not, that's a little out of my league. But I think that it still has resulted in what may be the need for maybe another categorization if you need to categorize, because those people are not going to fit into those three groups very comfortably, right? They're neither Mongolian or Caucasian, right? I mean, so I don't know. And why do we have to have the name that starts with cock? I don't think that's fair. But that's a different.
We as in us, as in you and I.
Yeah, as in white people. I don't
because
think...
we're the cocks. That's
oh
basically we get blamed for everything.
So wrong.
Well, one of our people of our race made the cock rocket.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Hey, so something that came up in conversation since we last podcast, and I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast or you and I talked about it off the air. We don't have too many off the air conversations anymore because we're afraid we're blowing out
good podcast material.
But this whole thing about what the name of your bedroom is in your house, do you remember that conversation? Did we have that on air or in my office?
I don't remember. I don't think it was.
The
That
master
was with
bedroom?
Matt. Yeah, the master bedroom conversation.
That was in Matt. Okay,
Yeah.
that was with Matt. So my wife heard that from her sister in Wisconsin. So that realization of where that. So here's what I'm talking about, guys. The term we use for the best bedroom in the house, the biggest bedroom, probably the one that you sleep in, is the master bedroom as opposed to the kids' rooms or whatever. So, but the master bedroom, that's that comes from slave days, and that's because, hey, that's the master's bedroom. So that's where that term comes from. And and I think this is probably an actual example of woke culture. That term is falling out of favor. So don't be looking for it on Zillow for much longer.
Well, that's how I
it's
first
still
heard
there.
about it, was through real estate. I want to say it was a real estate show, like those HGTV
Yeah,
shows where they go
yeah.
find. And this was maybe, I don't know, a year and a half ago,
Was
2 years
it?
ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was a realtor. I don't remember where it was. I think it was in the Southeast, one of your favorite places. And it was a realtor. He was taking somebody around, and he said something like,
My
this,
least favorite place.
Yeah, I know. He's like, this is the primary bedroom or something like that. I'm not even sure. There's probably a term that the real estate community has adopted. I'm not sure what it is.
Main bedroom.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I Googled it, and then I started, going down all these threads about, it's formerly the master bedroom, and you can't call it that because of slave references and all that. So it does, are we going to change everything because of past connotations?
I think this is a conversation in the time we have left, which I know is short, that we might just take up for a minute because we had it off air.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of thing where I don't rail against this because here's what I'm going to say. If a common term that's used in real estate and in everyday life is something that will make a huge portion of the population, and specifically black people, draw them back to that situation, I think we should easily be able to just dismiss it and not use it.
I think that's a fair point, but do we know the answer to your question? Is that term affecting people? Are they?
Is that where that term came from, or
No.
Does it bother them?
Yeah, is the black community up in arms about the term master bedroom?
I don't know, and I don't think that they necessarily.
We
have
probably
to be.
can answer that question, you and I.
I mean, we probably can find out the answer, but
No, we can't answer it.
no, we can't. But I don't think they have to be up in arms for us to make a decision out of common sense to just get rid of it, just stop using it. I mean, it costs us nothing to give that group of people that consideration in our country, and anybody that thinks that that's too uppity of them or too much is probably coming from a place where they think, they would like to make America great again.
But don't you think that it's
And
also
I mean that exactly the way I said it.
Yeah. And I don't have a dog in this fight, but don't you think it's also fair to say that an entire generation of people, maybe multiple generations of people, have just grown up with that word and that phrase because that's what they were told, and nobody ever explained to them why. Nobody questioned why. It wasn't a particularly divisive phrase. Nobody was hateful towards one another because of that.
I don't know.
So don't you think you could make an argument that there is a high level of innocence in that phrase?
A high level of innocence. I will make
not in its origins.
I will make I will say that sounds like a great name, great title for a book.
High level of
movie,
innocence.
yeah, or movie.
So whether or not it should be changed because there's a greater understanding of history and how things came about, that's a totally fair point. But and you're not saying this, and I'm not saying that you are.
That it should be changed?
No. The point I'm about to make is that there's a group of people that would never want to see it change because they're racist fucks, and they're not going to lose the phrase master unless over their dead body. I think that would be an overassumption.
I suppose the same I suppose the same person that thinks it's important to retain the name master bedroom is the same person that thinks there's some legitimate reason for a fucking Confederate flag to be flown anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's a far stretch.
Do you?
Yeah, because I think there's far more.
Is this the thing where not all Trump supporters are racist,
Maybe.
but all racists are Trump supporters?
Don't you think that there's far more education about the Confederacy and the Confederate flag and what that means than there ever has been about the term master bedroom?
You know, good question. I something that I don't know if we're ready to even talk about, if we ever want to talk about it, but there's something that I'm trying to get my head around. So
Are you writing a book?
I can't. No. So I just hate, at some level, I have to know a little bit about what I'm talking about to do this thing. This thing about history, I'm going to forget the name of it, but it's this teaching about slavery and so forth. They've got a name for it now, and there's a movement to
in schools.
Yeah.
Are you referring to critical race theory?
Yeah, critical race theory. So I don't want to talk about it now because I don't understand it enough. I think that I think critical race theory is, I saw a really interesting Bill Maher. You might have seen it recently with Vance. Oh, what's that guy's name? He's a black ex-CIA guy that's a frequent MSNBC contributor. He's an author too. And then Ben Shapiro. On with
just a recent episode.
Yeah, last week or the week before. You can find it. Should look at it. Although neither of them ever got past the point of getting pissed at each other. There wasn't a lot of great points made about it, except that both Malcolm Nance, I think is the guy's name.
I don't know him.
And you'll recognize him if you go look at that episode. Anyway, you know who Ben Shapiro is, right?
Yep. I've seen him. Hasn't he been on Bill Maher before?
I think so.
Yeah.
Bill said he considers him a friend, so which is fine. Ben Shapiro is fine. Whatever. He needs a fucking voice transplant, but that's a different
don't we
story.
all?
Yeah. So it was an interesting exchange, and I think both of them think that it's an unfortunate name for the whole thing, but really it's just history, and so it's really about a disagreement, I think, between people that want more uncomfortable history about slavery and race relations in this country. This will cover a vast amount of information, right? This would be everything from actual slavery, from how it started, what was going on while it was in play.
The building of master bedrooms.
The Jim Crow situation and all of that, right? And I think that that there is there's a movement to teach more of that, to make sure that is taught, and maybe taught more than it has been in the past. And so, of course, if you're a practicing racist, you think that's wrong, right? I can hear it now already, the tens of people yelling out, "Oh, that doesn't make me a racist because I don't think critical race theory should be taught." Well, maybe the jury's out on that. I don't know. I'm not an expert yet, but I will tell you, think about it, right? What motivation would you have for not having all of this history taught, in schools?
Well, for not wanting to talk about it, we're certainly talking about it. But yes. I read an interesting article. To me, I think the big issue about it between parents and schools is that parents seem to have this, and I don't know, so I don't really know what it is, to be honest with you. Yeah. But parents are voicing their concern about what they can control, the information that goes into their kids' education. And it's very much in line with the whole COVID thing, my body, my choice. It's that group of people that is up in arms about critical race theory and what's taught in schools. But the reality is, if we're being honest, how much of what is being taught that would be considered acceptable to those parents is within their control. They're not making the curriculum. They're sending their child to school, and they're being, they have a variety of classes, and you don't get to choose. It's whatever your school district adopted.
Well, yeah, I think we have to. the country has to make policy about what's going to be taught in public school.
Yes. Listen, we have to beat these fucking Russians. I say this all the time. And the Chinese. We have to be better at the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's not okay to teach this bullshit that, 2 + 2 = 5. Math is math. And
this is I can see what's happening here. Travis is starting to not understand his 4-year-old's homework.
You know what? That's a whole other story. But let me make this point about this critical race theory. Yeah. I read an article about this teacher was saying that a parent came to her and asked her this question: do you teach critical race theory in your classroom? And the teacher's response was pretty awesome, I thought. The teacher said, well, can you please describe for me what that is, and I'll tell you if I teach it.
Right.
And the parent couldn't.
Right.
Because that's really the issue, is the parents don't know what it is. They think, it means who knows what, that white people are evil, or that history didn't happen that way, or a combination of everything in the middle.
Right.
But the truth is, if you don't know what it is, then how can you really criticize if it's taught? And I don't know what it is, and maybe that's a perfect segue into whether or not we want to do a deeper dive on it.
Well, I think I'm gonna.
And it needs a better name, by the way. I don't know.
I think everybody on both sides of it seems to think that name is unfortunate.
Yeah, let's.
I mean, how are you not going to have problems with something that's named that? And I think that the truth of it is there actually isn't a thing that is critical race theory. It is just the practice of teaching honestly about race relations in the United States throughout our history. And so there is a significant group of people that do not want those issues taught in school.
Right.
Whether they understand or know exactly what they are or not, they would rather have their children taught that, yes, there was slavery at one time, and it wasn't a good thing, but most of the slaves were happy, and the masters took care of them and all this, and then it changed.
Shared a bedroom with them.
That's it. Yeah, shared a bedroom, which now is called the master's bedroom. And that was your great-grandfather.
Right, and I understand all that part. And don't you think that whatever period of history where modern technology and video cameras and recording devices, from that point forward, we should be able to have a pretty accurate telling of history for future generations?
Wow. I think it's something that we want to be ever vigilant about as the populace of this country, right? I mean, there isn't a goddamn thing about video capabilities that is making things more clear, right? Everything about those capabilities is making things harder to understand.
How so? How do you mean?
Body cam, videos from police don't tell much of the story, right?
Yeah, but isn't the alternative of not having a camera isn't any clearer or better?
It's not better, but I mean, it's not a panacea, right? We're not going to be able. Here's the thing about body cams in particular, which has been the biggest issue of late. They don't do justice to either side of a conflict. Right, because they're just not.
But it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be a just a recording device. It's supposed to just capture a moment in time.
It does, but unfortunately, it leaves out so much of the context that it becomes problematic.
But it provides more context than not having one.
I guess the question's got to be if something provides context that is not complete or doesn't tell both sides of a story, is it better?
Well, let me give you an analogy.
Yeah.
Two people have an argument. You hear about this argument, and you want to go interview these people. One person gives you a statement, the other one refuses to talk.
Right.
So you have half of one person's side of the story. Are you better off with that piece of the puzzle, or would you have been better off not interviewing both of them because you knew one side didn't want to talk?
I don't know. How does that? So can I answer that? I'm a little bit.
Yeah,
believe it or not, you confuse me.
Really, what I'm saying is,
I don't see how that correlates to body cam.
Well, how does it not? Really, what we're talking about, I don't even know how we got on body cam conversation.
Well, just about surveillance, right? You're saying, hey, maybe things like the real story about race relations will be easier to discern going forward in the future where there's a lot of video and stuff. I just don't necessarily think that's going to be the case.
What I'm talking about is, when you were a kid, maybe this was actually true, but when I was a kid, every story...
Here's the sad part, folks. Travis actually To be honest with you, as wise as he is, he probably doesn't know jack shit about what when I was a kid. It probably would seem like the Flintstones to him. But go ahead.
That's exactly where I was going with this. When I was a kid, and my parents would tell me stories about when they were young, I pictured everything they did in black and white. When they went,
I do.
When we went to a restaurant, hey kids, we ate at this restaurant, and I'm sitting there in color thinking, well, it was black and white when you guys were here, right? When you're a kid.
That is the funniest thing I've ever heard, and it's so true. I do remember a great deal of my childhood in black and white. And of course, every fucking TV show I ever saw. Before, let's see, what year was that? Before 1976. I don't think I ever saw a color TV show before that. So everything I remember is in black and white. That's so funny. I remember my neighborhood in black and white.
Right. So the point is this, at some point when you didn't have, whether it was color photos or television, or go all the way back, when you just had stories that were told before, information was captured in scrolls or in books, the accuracy, as in your fiction Bible telling story,
right,
has got to be questioned. And so just as technology advances and the recording devices, and everything that can capture that moment in time, as that stuff improves, I would think anyway that the version of the story that's told will become more consistent over time. And that's really kind of my point all the way back to critical race theory and the arguments of which version of history are we telling. My hope and my thought is that there really would be one disputable version of history as time goes forward.
I think that, none of that is a sure thing, right? Unfortunately. And so,
because Democrats will censor it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sure, I give our audience a lot of credit to be able to discern the sarcasm in my answers sometimes. No, that's not what I mean. But I don't. So I just think that this is just another one of those issues that just seems, until it comes up, if you ever thought about anything like this, like, how did they tell the story? I remember how history was taught when I was in elementary school. I remember learning about early days in the United States. I remember how the whole issue of slavery was presented in the textbooks.
And how was it?
And it was sanitized nonsense, right?
You think it's gotten further sanitized?
I don't know. I think that it's more, in some places they're probably still using the same fucking textbooks. That's one of the problems. But assuming all the textbooks have been upgraded since 1962, I just think
they give kids computers now.
Well,
Chromebooks.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure I'm in favor of that, but that's a different story. But I can only tell you that if the anti-critical race theory people are saying, hey, we want it to be taught the way it's always been taught, I can just assure everybody that it wasn't taught correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
And that's really what I think is what the heart of the argument is, and that's kind of a losing battle, right?
Well, I think educators are probably not going to engage much on this. This is a very, moment in time kind of issue, right? Hopefully it just fades away and there isn't a big hubbub about it. Because I think that probably most educators just want to teach what seems like the most reasonable, version of history, and if we're talking specifically about the United States, that they can, right? And so is it going to be told differently in Mississippi than it's told in L.A.? My guess is yes. So do I give a shit that much? I'm pretty sure every black kid in Mississippi knows that any nonsense they get from their white teachers in public schools, that sounds like, slavery was some kind of, assisted living program. They're going to know it was bullshit and they're going to reject it. So I'm not overly concerned about it.
What do you think is in this order? Reading, writing, arithmetic, and history?
Well, I think they're all equal, to be honest with you. Reading is probably the single most important thing. If you're not good at reading, you're never going to be able to master those other subjects, right? You're not going to be able to understand math past the
2 plus 2 stage. You're not going
2 plus 2 equals 5.
Yeah, it does in new math. And so I have seen recent examples with my 6-year-old nephew. I've had a little glimpse into how they're teaching math to him, and I can only say, as long as he's learning it, I'm okay with it. I mean, it doesn't sound great to me, but so, I get it sort of, but that's up to you and you, because you have children in that age range, so you're going to have to.
I just pull out my iPhone calculator.
Do you?
Push this button, it equals that.
Well, here's what I can tell you. I would have done much better in school if I had a calculator, right? The first handheld calculator didn't become available till the year after I graduated high school. I had one, a Texas Instrument calculator. I went to a junior college to take a remedial math class because I was a fucking moron. And I really just did not understand how to divide things. And so because of that, my math skills were stunted. And I went all through high school nearly failing algebra because it was a quagmire for me. And then I went to take this remedial math class at a junior college, and I was able to bring in a calculator, and so that's it. I aced it, right? No problem. Okay, it all makes sense now. Plus, I have a calculator, So until we get bombed back into the Stone Age, I think the math.
Yeah, because you do the math on the calculator, and it gives you four multiple choice answers, and the one you happen to stumble through kind of closely looks like one of the choices, and so I'll pick that one.
Yeah, is there a chance I put the wrong numbers in the calculator? I don't know. They were really kind of hard to read, bright red numbers, right? So that was a million years ago. That was probably 75. So very interesting. I don't know what they do in school now. I mean, I'm pretty sure my 6-year-old nephew's not working with a calculator when he does math because I've seen the worksheets and stuff. So it's like 3 sets of this and 4 sets of that.
Yeah, especially at that
shit.
level, you can't. I mean, you got to start with actual numbers.
But he's not even in first grade yet, right? He's already, they've already taught him to read, and he can count. No, I couldn't do any of that shit. The first word I learned to read was in the first day of first grade, and it was the word look, because they could draw I's and the O's, and that's it, right? And then, but this kid's 6. I mean, I was 10, and I'm still like. Dick and Jane walked Skippy the dog down to the park.
Well, it was black and white. It was harder to understand then.
Well, my memory's black and white. That's so funny.
Well, we had enough for today, my friend.
Yeah, that's good. I know we got on a tight schedule. Sorry for being a day or two late on this one, folks.
You know what? Our goal is to give you quality content, and it's an art, and we can't rush it, and we do our best.
That is his story, and he's sticking to it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.